Welcome back to Listen to Learn. I'm your host, and today we're diving into one of the most critical domains in CompTIA Security Plus, Identity and Access Management, or IAM. If you're preparing for the SY0701 exam, you know that controlling who gets access to what is fundamental to any security program. That is what IAM is all about. We're going to break this down into digestible pieces so you can understand and remember these concepts under exam pressure. By the end of this guide, you'll understand the AAA framework, the major access control models, authentication methods including MFA, identify protocols, account management strategies, and federated identity concepts. Let's get started. Let's start with the core concept, AAA. This stands for authentication, authorization, and accounting. But there's actually a fourth step that comes before all of these, identification. Identification is when the user claims who they are. Think of it like walking up to a bank teller and saying, "Hi, I'm John Smith." You're claiming an identity. Authentication is when the system verifies that you are actually John Smith. This is where credentials come in, your password, your fingerprint, your security token, authentication answers. The question, are you really who you claim to be? Authorization happens after authentication. Once the system knows you're John Smith, it decides what you're allowed to do. Can you access the savings accounts database? Can you approve wire transfers? Authorization answers the question, what are you allowed to do? Accounting, sometimes called auditing, is the logging and monitoring of what users actually do. It creates a record of action for compliance, troubleshooting, and security investigations. Accounting answers to the question, what did you do and when did you do it? Here's a real-world analogy. You walk into a security building. Identification is saying your name at the front desk. Authentication is showing your ID badge. Authorization is the security guard checking the list and saying you can go to the third floor, but not to the fifth floor. Accounting is a security camera recording that you entered at 9 a.m. and left at 5 p.m. For a Security Plus exam, you need to know these four concepts cold. They appear in multiple domains and scenarios. Part 2. Access Control Models. Deciding who gets what. Now that you understand the AAA framework, let's talk about how systems decide what users are allowed to do. This is where access control models come in. There are four main models you need to know for Security Plus. Discretionary Access Control, DAC. DAC is the most flexible and least restrictive model. In DAC, the owner of a resource decides who gets access to it. Think of it like your personal computer at home. You own it. You decide who can use it, what files they can access, and what they can do with those files. The owner has full discretion. Pros: flexible, easy to implement, user-friendly. Cons: less secure, prone to misconfiguration, doesn't scale well in large organizations. Exemptive: if you see a question about the owner deciding access, think DAC, DAC. Mandatory access control, MAC. MAC is the opposite of DAC. In MAC, the system administrators or security policy decides who gets access to what. Individual users have little to no control. Think of it like a military classification system. A document is marked top secret. Only people with a top secret clearance can access it. The individual document owner can't just decide to share it with someone without clearance. The system enforces the rule. Pros: very secure, consistent enforcement, good for high security environment. Cons: inflexible, difficult to manage, not user friendly. Exam tip: if you see military, government, or security labels, think MAC, MAC. Role-based access control, RBAC. RBAC is probably the most common model in real-world organizations. In RBAC, users are assigned to role and roles are assigned permissions. For example, in a hospital, the doctor role might have access to patient records, lab results, and prescription systems. A nurse role might have access to patients' records and vital signs, but not prescriptions authority. A receptionist role might have access to scheduling and basic patient info, but not medical records. When a new employee joins as a doctor, they are assigned the doctor role, and they automatically get all the permissions associated with that role. When they leave, you remove them from the role, and they lose all access. Pros: scalable, easy to manage, aligns with organizational structure. Cons: can become complex in large organizations, requires careful role design. Exam tip: if you see job function, department, or position, think RBAC. This is the most commonly tested model on Security Plus. Attribute based access control, ABAC. ABAC is the most granular and flexible model. In ABAC, access decisions are based on attributes, properties of the user, the resource, the environment, and the action. For example, the policy might say allow access to financial records if the user is in the accounting department and has completed security training and is connecting from the corporate network and is during business hours. This is much more flexible than RBAC because you can combine multiple attributes. Pros: very granular, high flexible, can express complex policies. Complex to implement, requires careful policy design, harder to troubleshoot. Exam tip: if you see attributes, conditions, or policies, think ABAC. Quick comparison for the exam: DAC or DAC only decides. MAC system admin decides based on security labels. RBAC user gets roles. Roles get permissions. ABAC access based on multiple attributes and conditions. Part 3: Authentication methods. How users improve who they are. Now let's talk about the different ways users can authenticate. This is a huge topic on Security Plus, so pay close attention. Authentication is based on factors: things you know, things you have, things you are, things you do, and where you are. Something you know. This is a secret that only you should know. The most common example is a password. Passwords. Easy to implement. Vulnerable to brute force, dictionary attacks, and phishing. Users tend to choose weak passwords or reuse them. For the exam, note that passwords should be long 20 plus 12 plus characters, complex, mixed or upper lower numbers, symbols, and unique. Other something you know factors include PIN, personal identification number, shorter than the password, typically numeric. Security questions: What's your mother's maiden name? Less secure because the answers can be guessed and found on social media. Passphrase: a long, easier to remember alternative to password, meaning blue sky, $ sunset 2024. Something you have. This is a physical object that proves your identity. Hardware token: small devices that generate one-time codes. Examples: RSA, Secure ID, YubiKey. Very secure because even if someone knows your password, they can't log in without the physical token. Software tokens: apps on your phone that generate one-time codes. Examples: Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, Authy. More convenient than hardware tokens, but less secure because your phone could be compromised. HOTP, based on time password, generates a code based on a counter. Each time you use it, the counter increments. Example: RSA Secure ID, TOTP, time based on one-time password, generates a code based on the current time. The code changes every 30 seconds. Example: Google Authenticator, more common than HOTP for consumer applications. Smart cards, credit card sized devices with an embedded chip, can store certificates, keys, and other credentials. Common in government and military PIV/CAC cards. Require a PIN to use, so they're actually two factors: something you have plus something you know. Mobile device as a token. Your phone receives a push notification asking you to approve login. You tap approve and you're authenticated. Examples: Microsoft Authenticator. Dual security. Something you are. This is a biometric authentication using your unique physical characteristics. Fingerprint recognition scans your fingerprint and compares it to stored data. Fast, convenient, but can be spoofed with high-quality fingerprint replicas. Common on phones and laptops. Iris retina recognition scans unique patterns in your iris or retina. Very accurate, difficult to spoof. More expensive and less common than fingerprint. Often used in high security environments. Facial recognition analyzes your facial features. Convenient but can be spoofed with photos or deepfakes. Increasingly common on phones and laptops. Privacy concerns in some jurisdictions. Voice recognition analyzes your voice patterns. Convenient for phone-based authentication. Can be affected by background noise or illness. Can be spoofed to high-quality audio recordings. Behavioral biometrics analyzes how you type, how you move your mouse, or how you swipe. Continuous authentication monitors you while you're using the system. Less common but growing in use. For the exam, note that biometrics are very secure but can have false acceptance rates, FAR, letting in someone who shouldn't be, and false rejection rates, FRR, blocking someone who should be allowed in. The point where FAR equals FRR is called the crossover error rate, CER. The lower the CER, the better the biometric system. Something you do. This behavioral authentication, how you perform actions. Examples: typing pattern, keystroke dynamics, mouse movement pattern, signature verification, gait recognition, how you walk. This is less common than other factors but is growing in use for continuous authentication. Somewhere you are. This is location-based authentication where you log in from, example, geolocation, GPS coordinates, IP address range, network, corporate Wi-Fi versus public Wi-Fi. The system might say allow login only if the user is on the corporate network or if the user is logging in from a new country. Require additional authentication. Part 4. Multi-factor authentication, MFA. Multi-factor authentication means using more than one factor to authenticate. This is one of the most important security controls on the exam. Why MFA matters. A password alone is vulnerable. If someone steals your password, they can log in. MFA requires at least two factors. Even if someone has your password, they can't log in without the second factor. MFA dramatically reduces the risk of account compromise. Common MFA combinations: password plus hardware token, something you know plus something you have. Password plus software token, something you know plus something you have. Password plus biometric, something you know, something you are. Password plus push notification, something you know, something you have. Biometric plus hardware token, something you are, plus something you have. Important examine point. MFA requires factors from different categories. Using two passwords is not MFA. Using a password and a PIN is not MFA. Both are something you know. Using a password and a software token, ISMFA, is something you know plus something you have. For the exam, remember, MFA is one of the most effective security controls if you see a question about reducing account compromise risk. MFA is almost always a good answer. Part 5. Identity protocols. How systems share identity information. Now let's talk about protocols, the standardized ways that systems communicate about identity. If this helped you prepare for Security Plus, subscribe for the next topic in this